Have you ever had this unsettling realization dawn on you? You have spent your entire life preparing for a moment that never comes. The question hangs there, unsettling, unshakable, because when you truly stop to think about it, you realize you have spent years absorbing, years consuming, years filling yourself with the thoughts of others, and yet nothing has come out. Where is the art you once dreamed of making? Where is the book you once promised yourself you'd write? Where is the business, the invention, the project that once lived vividly in your mind? What happened to them? You thought they were waiting for the right moment, that one day, when you were ready, they would emerge. But the years have passed, and they remain unborn. So you tell yourself, I just need a little more time, a little more knowledge, a little more inspiration. And yet deep down, a different truth whispers, you don't need more knowledge. You need to begin. Why do you hesitate? On the surface, it seems logical. You want to be prepared. You want to do things well. You want to ensure your work is meaningful, worthy, impactful. But beneath that logic lies something deeper, a trick played by your own mind. In Buddhist thought, the mind is like a wild horse, constantly running in circles, always seeking, always grasping. It craves security, avoiding discomfort at all costs. The very nature of the ego is to cling to the known, and nothing is more uncertain than the act of creating something new. This is why your mind convinces you that you are not ready, because the moment you create, you step into the unknown, and the unknown is terrifying. Lao Tzu, the ancient Taoist philosopher, once said, "To the mind that is still, the whole universe surrenders." But your mind is never still. It is always calculating, always searching, always telling you that you need one more piece of knowledge before you act. And yet the irony is this: no amount of knowledge will make you feel ready, because readiness is not a destination. It is a mirage, perhaps the most dangerous illusion of all, the one that keeps you trapped in consumption rather than creation, is the illusion of time. You believe there will always be more of it, that one day, when the conditions are perfect, you will begin. That one day, when inspiration strikes, you will take action. That one day, when you feel truly ready, you will bring forth what has been waiting inside you. But that day never comes, because life does not slow down for your hesitation. The Bhagavad Gita, one of the most revered texts in Eastern philosophy, teaches that action itself is the path. It does not tell you to wait. It does not tell you to seek permission. It tells you to act. You have the right to work, but never to the fruit of work. Do not be attached to the results of your actions, but do not fall into inaction either. In other words, create, not because you are guaranteed success, but because creation itself is your purpose. You hesitate because you fear that your work will not be good enough. But that is not your concern. Your concern is only to create, to act, to move, to step forward, without waiting for the stars to align, without waiting for certainty, without waiting for permission. This is where the real question emerges. Because if you do not create, if you do not act, if you do not bring forth what is inside you, what happens to it? Ideas do not live forever. Visions do not remain indefinitely. A book unwritten will never be written. A song unsung will never be heard. A dream unpursued will never see the light of day. The philosopher Seneca warned of this long ago. It is not that life is short, but that we waste much of it. Every moment you delay, you're wasting it. Not because you lack talent, not because you lack intelligence, not because you lack knowledge, but because you refuse to step forward. So I ask you, what will happen if you never begin? And if that thought unsettles you, good, because the time is now. There is a reason consuming feels so good. Every time you read an article, watch a video, or absorb new knowledge, your brain rewards you. It floods you with dopamine, the same neurochemical that reinforces habits. You feel productive. You feel like you are progressing. But this is an illusion, because knowledge alone does not change you. A person who reads about exercise but never moves remains weak. A person who studies music but never plays an instrument remains silent. A person who dreams of writing but never picks up the pen remains voiceless. The philosopher Alan Watts described this paradox well. No valid plans for the future can be made by those who have no capacity for living now. You keep preparing for a future version of yourself, a future where you are confident, skilled, and certain. But that future will never come, because certainty is not the prerequisite for action. Action is the prerequisite for certainty. In Taoist philosophy, the emphasis on aligning with the natural flow of the universe, achieving harmony and effectiveness without forceful action, is called Wu Wei, or effortless action. Not because it means passivity, but because it teaches that struggle arises when you resist the flow of creation. The problem is never that you are incapable. The problem is that you are overthinking what should be done instinctively. The moment you overanalyze whether you are ready, whether your work is good enough, whether you will succeed, you paralyze yourself. A river does not question whether it should flow. A tree does not hesitate before it grows. Creation is nature's way. So why have you forgotten how to flow? Beyond hesitation, beyond overthinking, there is a deeper fear. The fear of being seen. To create is to reveal yourself, to bring something deeply personal into the world. What if it isn't good enough? What if people judge you? What if you put yourself out there and it fails? This fear stems from the illusion of the false self, a concept deeply rooted in Buddhist and Vedantic philosophy. From childhood, you have been crafting an image of yourself, a curated version of who you are, carefully shaped by what is acceptable, what is safe, what is admired. And the moment you create, you risk shattering that illusion. Because what if your work is not perfect? What if you are not the person you thought you were? What if the world sees the flaws you tried so hard to hide? This is why you hesitate, not because you lack talent, not because you lack intelligence, not because you lack time, but because you fear that creating will expose you. But what if exposure is exactly what you need? Wouldn't you rather play with the truth than a false self? So how do you break free? How do you undo years of hesitation, of fear, of passive consumption? The answer is simpler than you think. It is not found in another book. It is not found in another video. It is not found in another moment of reflection. It is found in one thing: doing the thing you have been avoiding. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Now this is the secret that every creator, every artist, every visionary has discovered. You do not create because you are fearless. You create despite the fear. The resistance will always be there. The fear will always be there. But you move anyway, because hesitation is a habit, and so is action. The moment you take one step, the spell is broken. The moment you begin, the fear begins to fade. The moment you create, you begin hearing your voice. This is how you reclaim yourself. Not by thinking, not by waiting, by creating. Right now, as you sit here, you are at a crossroads. You can continue waiting. You can continue consuming. You can continue telling yourself that you need more time. Or you can choose to step forward, to create before you feel ready. to begin, before the fear disappears, to act, before the moment passes, because whether you act or not, time will move. The only question is, will you move with it? Waiting comes at a cost, not a small cost, a cost so immense, so devastating, that once you see it, you can never unsee it. Every moment of hesitation is not just time lost, but life lost. The human spirit is not meant to be passive. It is not meant to merely watch, listen, and be a passenger. It is meant to express itself, to bring something forth from nothing, to give form to thought, to make the unseen seen. And when you do not do this, when you suppress expression, something inside you withers. The Bhagavad Gita warns of this. Better to live your own destiny imperfectly than to live an imitation of someone else's life with perfection. Every day that you do not create, you are living someone else's life. You are absorbing their words, their work, their reality. You are watching instead of doing. You are scrolling instead of shaping. And what happens when this continues for years? You wake up one day and realize you do not know who you are anymore, because your spirit was never expressed. The thoughts that once burned inside you, dimmed, the ideas that once filled you with excitement, forgotten, the voice that was uniquely yours, silenced. This is the great unseen consequence of inaction, the erosion of your own spirit, not in an obvious way, not all at once, but slowly, subtly, until one day you realize you have become a ghost in your own life. You fear failure. You fear rejection. You fear that if you create, it will not be good enough, that people will not care, that it will not matter. But what you fail to see is that there is one pain greater than all others. The pain of looking back at your life and knowing that you never even tried. The pain of knowing that your art, your voice, your work, died inside you, never given the chance to exist. Bronnie Ware, a palliative nurse who spent years with the dying, recorded their greatest regrets. Do you know what the most common one was? I wish I had lived true to myself, not what others expected of me. Not I wish I had consumed more knowledge. Not I wish I had been more prepared before I started. Not I wish I had waited longer to feel ready. It was always the regret of not acting sooner. The regret of not being bold enough. The regret of letting fear win. The regret of waiting until it was too late. And here you are, with time still in your hands, with your ideas still alive inside you. But for how much longer? If consumption is passivity, then creation is power. It is how you reclaim yourself. It is how you break the cycle of hesitation. It is how you stop wandering in endless preparation and begin living deliberately. The greatest minds in history were not the most prepared. They were the ones who understood that creation is not about perfection. It is about participation. That the point is not to make something flawless. The point is to make something at all. Da Vinci, Picasso, Einstein, Tesla. They did not wait for readiness. They did not spend their lives hoarding knowledge, waiting for the perfect moment. They created first and became great because they created, not the other way around. Now you know. Now you cannot pretend. Now you have seen the cost of hesitation. And with that knowledge, a question remains. What will you do? Because from this moment forward, every second you hesitate, every time you push creation aside, you are making a choice. To let another day slip by, to let another piece of your soul go unexpressed, to let your life remain unwritten, or you can begin. Not later, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Now, because the truth is, you have always been ready. You just didn't believe it. And now, that belief is no longer an option. Right now, your instincts are wired for passivity. You wake up, you check your phone, you absorb before you express. You fill your mind with the thoughts of others before you have even allowed your own to emerge. This is why you feel stuck. This is why inspiration seems so distant, because you have been giving consumption the first and best part of your mind. That ends today. From now on, you will create before you consume. Before you read, you will write. Before you watch, you will make. Before you listen, you will express. You will act before you absorb. This is how you reclaim your creative power. You do not need to start big. You do not need to produce a masterpiece overnight. You simply need to reverse the cycle, even if it is for 10 minutes, even if it is imperfect, even if no one ever sees it. You must create first, because when you do, something incredible happens. The inspiration you have been waiting for, it begins to flow. Not because you waited for it, but because you made space for it to arrive. The mind resists what is foreign. Right now, creating feels unnatural because hesitation has become your habit. But hesitation can be unlearned, not through force, not through struggle, not through waiting for motivation, but through ritual. Every great creator has a ritual, a sacred, non-negotiable act of making every single day. Not because they always feel inspired, not because they always feel ready, but because they understand that discipline removes the need for motivation. If you sit and wait for the moment to feel right, you will wait forever. But if you sit and create, at the same time, every day, no matter what, the resistance begins to fade. The mind stops fighting you, and creating becomes as natural as breathing. This is not about forcing yourself into misery. This is about creating an unbreakable rhythm, a daily act of defiance against the habit of hesitation, a rebellion through consistency. And once this ritual takes root, you will no longer need to fight to create. You will simply become the creator you were always meant to be. The Bhagavad Gita teaches, you have the right to work, but never to the fruit of your work. Your job is not to control how your creation is received. Your job is to create, to act without attachment, to make without expecting praise, to express without seeking validation. Because when you release the need for a specific result, creation becomes effortless. You are no longer bound by fear. You are no longer worried about whether it is good enough, because you finally understand. It is not about the result. It never was. It is about who you become in the process of creating. This is where you break the spell. This is where the hesitation dies, not because you no longer feel fear, but because you no longer let fear decide for you. Now there is only one thing left to do. Act, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Now, because the moment you move, everything changes. Hesitation is a habit, so is action. And today, you choose action. Today, you rebel against everything that has kept you frozen. Today, you stop preparing to live, and you begin to live. At the core of all human suffering is one simple illusion, that life is something happening to you, that you are waiting for a signal, for permission, for a sign that it is time to begin. But life is not something you wait for. Life is something you create. Right now, in this very moment, the present is all there ever will be. You are not just existing. You are shaping your reality through your actions, through your choices, through what you choose to bring forth, or what you choose to leave unexpressed. There is no cosmic permission slip coming. There is no divine signal telling you that now is the time. The time is now. because now is all you ever have. The Bhagavad Gita teaches that the self and action are one, that you are not just the observer of life, but the very force that moves it. The Tao Te Ching reminds us, when you let go of what you are, you become what you might be. The artist is not separate from the art. The dancer is not separate from the dance. And you are not separate from what you long to create. Perhaps the greatest deception of all, the one that has kept you frozen, is the belief that creation must come from you, that you must generate inspiration, that you must be brilliant, talented, prepared, that you must be the source. Creation does not come from you. It moves through you. The greatest artists, the greatest thinkers, the greatest makers, they understood something that most never realize. They were never the source. They were the vessel. They created not because they were special, but because they became open. And in that surrender, creation moved through them like wind moving through the trees, like the tide moving toward the shore, effortless, unstoppable. And this is your final, most powerful realization. You only need to be open, because the moment you stop resisting, the moment you stop trying to control the outcome, the moment you stop fearing the imperfections, the moment you stop believing that you are separate from what you long to create, everything changes. Now you know. Now you see the illusion for what it is. You were never waiting for readiness. You were never waiting for inspiration. You were never waiting for permission. You were waiting for yourself. And now, there is only one thing left to do. Act. Not timidly, not cautiously, not half-heartedly, with the full force of knowing that creation is not something you do. It is what you are. And from this moment forward, you are done waiting. This is it. You will never go back. Because once you step into the river, you will remember that you were water all along. There is no time like now to let your spirit flow.